Companies are hiring again. The U.S. added 287,000 jobs in June, the strongest report so far this year. Joining me now is U.S. Labor Secretary Thomas Perez. Secretary Perez, thank you so much for being here.
Good to be with you, Seana.
So it was the big beat in the June jobs report. What's your take on the number?
Well, this is obviously a very solid rebound from the prior month, and what we're seeing is this economy is incredibly resilient. There's really two takeaways for me from this report. Number one, we have a resilient economy. The recovery in this past month was very broad-based, so we saw good job numbers across a lot of well-paying sectors. So that's takeaway number one. Takeaway number two is when folks see a month that doesn't meet expectations like we saw last month, it's important not to jump to conclusions. 1 month that's a month that exceeds expectations, that's not a trend. 1 month that doesn't meet expectations, that's not a trend either. What we do know is we've had 69 months in a row where we've had job growth to the tune of 14.8 million jobs. That is a trend, and it's a trend in the right direction. And so I was looking at some of the statements that some folks were making last month after those job numbers, and the economy's at a standstill. No, the economy's not at a standstill. The economy is continuing to move in the right direction. We've got more work to do. There's no doubt about that. And we have to continue to make sure we're doing our level best to grow wages, although wage growth over the last year, Seana, has been 2.6%, which is the best number, tied for the best number we've seen since the beginning of the recovery. We still have more work to do there. But notwithstanding all these global headwinds, we continue to move, I think, in a very solid direction.
And do you think that this jobs report puts to rest any lingering worries that the jobs market and also the broader economy has taken a turn for the worse?
Well, again, I look at the trend data. We've had 172,000 jobs a month this year in 2016. We need about 80,000 jobs a month to sustain the basic population growth. So everything above 80,000 is movement in the right direction. A year ago, the unemployment rate was 5.3%. Now it's 4.9%. So we're again, that's another solid bellwether. We've now had 70 weeks in a row of first-time claims for unemployment below 300,000. That's the longest streak since 1973. And by way of comparison for your viewers, during the depths of the recession, our first-time claims for unemployment were north of 600,000. So when you look at all the fundamentals, consumer spending the last couple months has been solid. Auto sales continue to be at a very steady clip. These are good bellwethers of an economy that continues to move in the right direction. We have more work to do, and I think the basic challenge that lies ahead is to make sure that the wind that's at our back results in shared prosperity for everyone and not just prosperity for a few at the top. That rising tide has to lift all the boats and not just the yachts. And there's still too many people who are on a dinghy and that boat's taken in water. And that's the unfinished business of this recovery.
So what do you think needs to be done in order to put more people back to work looking forward here?
Well, we need to continue to sustain our investments in infrastructure. We need to raise the minimum wage because one thing I hear from businesses that I go see when I ask them the question, what do you need? A lot of them say, I need more customers. Well, if people are making $7.25 an hour, it's hard to be a customer when you don't have money in your pocket. So we need to raise the minimum wage. We continue our investments in upskilling people, and it's paid a lot of dividends. You look at a lot of these in-demand sectors, and I meet people that we've helped get through a computer coding camp, and they finish that coding camp on a Friday. They start their job on a Monday, and they're making a substantially higher wage than they were before. So the more you can upskill, the better your chances are of punching your ticket to the middle class. So these sorts of investments in skills, these investments in infrastructure, the raising the minimum wage so people have money in their pockets, these are tried and true ways of making sure we continue to grow this economy.
And one important factor in this report is the fact that the unemployment rate rose last month to 4.9% from 4.7%. What's the reason, do you think, for this climb?
Sure. Sometimes the unemployment rate goes down for bad reasons because people leave the workforce. Sometimes the unemployment rate goes up for good reasons. And this was one of those months. The unemployment rate went up because our labor force participation rate went up. In other words, more people had confidence that they could get a job. And so they were looking actively for a job. So a month like this, I am very content to come and explain to you why the higher unemployment rate is not the data point that people should look at. The data point we should be looking at is the fact that we had 287,000 new jobs and we had labor force participation that is going up. We want people to get out of the sidelines and into the workplace looking for work. And what we also saw last month that is very heartening to me is a dramatic drop in the number of people who are working part-time for economic reasons. In other words, people who work in part-time who want to work full-time, a lot of them, to the tune of over 500,000, found work last month that was full-time. And that's a really good shot in the arm for those families.
Secretary Perez, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, Seana.
Thank you. And now it's your turn. What are your thoughts on the June jobs report? Let us know what you think in the space below or on the Yahoo Finance Facebook page.